Ladies and gentlemen, in the world of chess, we are governed by one overlord. And that overlord is called Stockfish. There are many different types of chess bots, but Stockfish always wins in the end. A couple of years ago, ChatGPT came out, and I paired it against Stockfish. And in case you haven't seen those videos, you really should check them out, because ChatGPT put up a decent fight. The only problem was that it bended the rules of chess. It broke multiple dimensions. Pieces flew in and out of the board. I'm recording this in 2025, and ChatGPT 5 just came out. It is much better than the original ChatGPT, especially in chess. So I did what any normal person would do on a Saturday when it's bright and beautiful outside. I sat at home and paired ChatGPT 5 against Stockfish. And that's what I'm going to be showing you in this video. And it was pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. All right. I'm going to show you two games. If you'd like, we can make them play even more against each other. And let's kick things off. First game, ChatGPT had the white pieces and Stockfish was with the black pieces. Next game, we are going to flip it around. So things opened with the move E4. All right. So we got E4 to start. And Stockfish responded with C5, the Sicilian defense. Normal stuff. Knight F3. This is one way to fight for the center with a flank pawn. Knight F3 is a normal move because you try to play pawn to D4 next. Stockfish knows that. It develops its knight as well. ChatGPT plays pawn to D4. So far, everything is looking okay. Black captures. White captures. So far, so good. And black plays here the move E6. So this is a Taimanov Sicilian. You don't have to know that. It doesn't really matter. All black is trying to do is get the dark squared bishop out, get the knight out as well, and put up some fight as the game proceeds. Okay? ChatGPT doesn't make any illegal moves. Plays knight C3. So far, everything totally normal. Like I said, the newest model of GPT actually is quite strong. It could be reading Stockfish's scripts right back to it. It could be playing Stockfish as a mirror image of Stockfish. But trust me when I say that these games are about to get incredibly idiotic. ChatGPT 5 came armed with some new tricks that I did not think were possible. The pawn went to A6 for black. White went bishop to E2. All normal. Black went queen c7, not developing these two pieces yet, but soon you will commit them. These pawns are like little spikes so that the knights can't jump in and attack the queen or anything else, any of the other squares I highlighted because I have terrible motor skills. And then white castled. What? Okay, white castled. All good. And black played the move d6. We're going to get some 11 moves in this game with totally normal chess. All right? Bishop went to e3. Stockfish developed the knight. You'll notice these pawns, again, are just trying to fight off the white pieces. The bishops will come out to e7 and d7. Everything is going to look completely reasonable, normal. Bishop e3, knight f6, pawn to f4, bishop to e7. Now, a move that white likes to make in these kind of Sicilians while you push these pawns out to create an attack is a move king h1. It's actually a completely reasonable move. Black castled here. White went a4. Now, this move might look strange, but you're just trying to prevent black from developing the pawn. You're controlling it with a pawn and these other pieces. Bishop d7, bishop f3, knight to a5. Now, at this point, ChatGPT officially forgets how to play chess. It survives some 10 moves. You'll notice the evaluation is completely equal. It's hanging equal with a 3,700 elo bot. I mean, Stockfish is incredible. Stockfish jumped its knight out to the edge of the board to then plop it into the nice juicy c4 square where it would target the weak bishop and the weak pawn. You can't play b3 defending that square because then you would weaken this. Anytime you move a pawn in chess, you got to think about what it used to defend. Okay, but like I said, ChatGPT plays chess in 17 different dimensions, right? It doesn't play chess just in 2 or 3, all right? So, we're about to find out. It plays the move e5. Now, this is an advantage because it thinks that it can make a second move in a row. But after pawn takes c5, pawn takes e5, and queen takes e5, white is just simply losing a pawn. So ChatGPT blundering a pawn, and now Stockfish is attacking the bishop on e3. It has eyes on the knight, just in case. It has eyes over here as well. You do have to see with the enemy pieces what the enemy pieces see on your side of the board. Got to be able to draw little things like this. So queen takes e5, total domination. ChatGPT here completely explodes, plays bishop to f4, and hangs the bishop. All right? Just loses the bishop. There's nothing at all here. Hangs the bishop in one move, and then says, bishop takes b7. I am capturing your rook's defender with a check. I think it thinks this is a check. A check in chess is on a king, so I don't know what on earth ChatGPT is yapping about. Stockfish moves the queen back to b8, getting the queen out of danger, and also ready to recapture, so it would have won a bishop, and now it's going to win a second bishop. And ChatGPT here follows up on the very powerful move, bishop takes b7, by taking the pawn on a6 instead of the rook, and simply loses the bishop. So now it is down 2 bishops. I mean, it's hard to play Stockfish on equal ground. It's really hard to play Stockfish when you're down 2 bishops. At this point, I was waiting like, yo, you know that meme where you're poking, the guy's poking and he's like, hey, do something? I'm like, yo, GPT, you're supposed to make illegal moves. That's what makes you funny. I'm waiting. I'm like, are you not going to make illegal moves? Is that your thing now? You're like, I'm too good. I only play by the rules, Gotham. You can't farm me for content anymore. No. Just wait. Queen d3. Rook to d6. That was an attack on the rook. The rook moved out of the way. Stockfish pinning the knight. And GPT loses another piece. It straight up just loses another piece. Queen to g3. Rook takes d4. And it plays rook d1. And I mean, the game is over because Stockfish is like, well, I'm going to take the rook. And then this. And, you know, here I would recommend just trading off all of your opponent's pieces. But Stockfish is even more powerful. It takes the pawn on b2. White plays rook b1. And now queen c2. And I mean, it is over. But Stockfish in this position missed the latest patch notes. And the patch notes say that once a game, you are allowed to turn your rook into a bishop. Because here, ChatGPT played the very powerful rook takes c2. Now we have a problem, okay? Because we have lost our most powerful piece, and white still has 3 pieces. Those pieces in black's position have quite a big task ahead of them, okay? This was unexpected turn of events. Stockfish says, all right, I don't know where my queen went, but I feel like there was a disturbance in the force. I'm going to move my knight back to the c6 square. Let's go. What it didn't realize here was that ChatGPT 5 would spawn a rook on the d1 square and then cannonball it into the black position. Rook takes d7 was played. That's not good. Stockfish is quickly running out of moves and pieces. It takes back on d7. But here, to really, really rub it in, ChatGPT bazookas this rook into the d7 square as well. It takes twice on d7 with rooks that were not able to take on d7. Meaning Stockfish has just lost a knight and a bishop in the fire. It only has a knight and a bishop and a rook remaining. I mean, this is probably hopeless, right? You just lost 2 very important pieces. It plays bishop to f6. ChatGPT plays knight e4. Suddenly it's regained consciousness. It's no longer cheating. It's making legal moves. It's threatening the bishop. And now bishop to e5. Attacking the queen, defended by the knight. And at this point, ChatGPT 5 does something I've never seen before. ChatGPT teleports pieces usually. But here, with its queen under attack, ChatGPT hides the queen in another dimension of the chessboard and plays pawn to g3. The queen vanishes from the dimension that we are currently in. It's just floating off in outer space. And at a key moment of this game, it is going to return back. Contrary to what you might think, that a pawn took its own queen, the queen disappears off to greener pastures to do important deeds. And maybe it will come back when things get dire. Stockfish now says, well, this is fantastic. I'm just up a bishop. So it plays rook to c8. King to g2. Pawn to h6. Okay, king to f3. At this point, I was like, I don't know why GPT-5 is only playing with its king, but it's trying to follow good endgame principles. Rook to A8. And at this point, GPT-5 goes rook D5 and says, I'm attacking your bishop. That's not a good move. It hangs a rook in one move. You really need that queen back at this point. I just thought it was never going to return. It goes knight to C5. It only has a knight and three pawns, I should say, remaining. Knight C5 played. Bishop D4 attacking that very same knight. Good move by Stockfish. The knight goes to B3, and Stockfish takes the pawn. I mean, Stockfish is doing a great job converting with the information that it has. Rook takes A4 on the board. Folks, a few moves later, the queen returned. And not only did it return from its duties abroad, it captures the knight on C6. And I realized it might be over for Stockfish. Stockfish only has a rook and a bishop. It doesn't fly pieces off into other dimensions. It only uses what it has. So at this point, it went rook to A3, pinning the knight to the king. Of course, white is completely winning. But GPT-5 played queen E8 check, king to H7, and rather than defending its knight, played the move queen to E4, hanging the queen in one move. And when Stockfish tried to take this queen, GPT-5 said, that's an illegal move. Oh, no. It's definitely legal. And after king takes E4 and rook takes B3, Stockfish is back to winning. But what it had failed to realize is who it's dealing with. Because in this position, GPT-5 played queen takes F7. I don't know how it's possible. I don't know how the queen left the board, came back, was captured, respawned, but queen takes F7 is on the board. This rook is hanging. The king is here. And just when you thought the world was an unjust place, rook to B4 appears, and ChatGPT-5 walks the king toward the other king to deliver a checkmate. It senses that the opponent is weak. Bishop back to F6. And in one of the most unexpected plot twists yet, ChatGPT played queen to G6 check, king to H8, and rather than repeating the position and making a draw, here it played queen H7 and declared checkmate. And when I told it, Stockfish responded, king takes H7, and that it wasn't checkmate. I think the emotional turmoil that ChatGPT-5 went through in losing its queen 3 times in the same game was simply too much. And here, the white king played king takes F6. Impaling itself on the bishop, it was promptly captured, and Stockfish defeated ChatGPT-5. But that was just game number 1. We have game number 2. For this game, ChatGPT took the black pieces. You see how close GPT got in that last game to clutching it? It was almost a draw. It was winning at certain points, but it definitely had a draw in hand, something that it can't say in the past. In this game, Stockfish took the white pieces, okay? That was a crazy game. This one was even crazier. This one was a battle of attrition, down to the final drops of blood, sweat, and tears, or WD-40, or whatever ChatGPT runs on. Stockfish opened with the move D4. Black responded knight to F6. White played C4. Now we have E6, knight F3, D5, G3, bishop E7, bishop G2. Black castled, white castled. ChatGPT-5 at this point said, ha, castles, classic Catalan, shut up. Or as the kids say, Sibau. S-Y-B-A-U, is that how you pronounce it? Anyway, with a little rose, the little rose thing. I gotta keep up with the lingo, you know what I'm saying? Castles, D takes c4. This is what we call the mainline Catalan. It's the most popular way to play the Catalan opening, both with white and with black. Queen to c2, targeting the pawn. a6, trying to attack the queen. a4, trying to not allow that to happen. Black plays bishop d7. Stockfish plays a unique approach. It doesn't take on c4 right away. It plays rook d1. ChatGPT 5 doesn't know anything about the Catalan, so it doesn't know any theory, and it blunders into a setup that is really, really powerful for black. White does not take the pawn on c4. Instead, what white does is build a giant center with the move e4 and is already winning. So this position is terrible for black because white is just going to smash open the center. And Stockfish knows that, you know. That's why it gave away the pawn on c4. And for the first 20 moves of this game, Stockfish was beating its opponent like its opponent played less than 10 chess games in its life. But as always, there is going to be more to the story, and at some point, the creative defensive skills of ChatGPT will come through. So, b5. Everything is defended, right? Well, good defense over here. White smashes down the center of the board with the move d5. Okay? Pawn takes d5. e5. Not even responding by capturing, but the fact that you just block in this bishop, you attack the knight and keep the pressure on this pawn, GPT-5 has to stumble back into its own position. Now you kick down the door with knight takes d5, bishop takes, rook takes, and when black plays the move pawn to c6 attacking your rook, you just come back. And that's the beautiful thing about the Catalan, because you have long-range sniping going on here. The bishop as well. The bishop also can come through on this diagonal. Black's pieces are stuck. This one pawn dominates three different pieces. Three different pieces can't move forward because of that centralized pawn on e5. This is a really, really bad position. You have no easy way to get out of this. And after queen c8, here comes bishop to h3. Look at this. How are you going to defend the knight? Spoiler alert, it's impossible. Rook to a7, defending it with the rook. But bishop comes in, attacking the rook. The rook slides over to c7. It looks like the worst is over, right? I mean, it looks like you survived. You're kind of defending everything. But in this position, Stockfish is after my own heart. Stockfish is trying to make it into a Gotham video, which is ironic because I literally created this matchup and the entire concept of these two playing this game today. But anyway, rook takes d7. It sacrifices the rook. Rook takes d7. Why? Because for this move and this move only, there is a pin on the rook to the queen. And you PP on the PP. Put pressure on the pin piece with queen to f5. Vicious. Vicious. By the way, you couldn't play rook d1 here because rook would take and it would be a check. So sometimes PP on the PP doesn't quite work if there is a check, right? Like that. So queen f5, right? Queen f5 on the board. g6, you take the rook. Takes. Just like last game, absolute bludgeoning ongoing, total beatdown. But ChatGPT comes alive. It does not disappoint. Remember how last game in the patch notes, the rook becomes a bishop for one move? Stockfish forgot again. One time in the game, you can give the rook a power-up. ChatGPT 5 here did pay to play, paid $3.99 through an iPhone, and got a rook boost and move like this. I mean, if chess ever wants to be pay to play with microtransactions, activate the knight bonus, boom. Now it's anybody's game. Stockfish is like, all right, I gotta adapt to the new position, like always, with this idiot. Now I'm down a pawn, but I still have some good pressure here. So I think I'm gonna play pawn takes b5, opening up the position, right? Now c takes b5, and now rook takes a6. Idiot blundered a pawn. So now it's an equal endgame. Black is slightly worse. White has a good position still because this pawn's so good and this pawn is weak. So knight to c7, attacking the rook. The rook goes over to b6. All normal stuff, right? Self-explanatory. Except now, this scumbag GPT-5 plays rook d8. But it more specifically said rook fd8. Rook fd8. It now has two rooks. It paid $5.99 for that power-up. It's just using microtransactions in chess. It's now up a rook. Now Stockfish has to adapt to this position. Stockfish is like, how the hell did I get into this position? What did I have to drink last night? So there's no back rank mate, right? The king is always going to be safe. Stockfish here does something very creative. It plays a move that doesn't weaken much of the position. It just goes over here. It's like, I'm not doing nothing. You can learn, by the way, from this, being down a rook. You guys are down a rook in most of your games. Bishop h6. The king is stuck on the back rank now. So now you kind of long-term are always looking at little different checkmating opportunities. GPT-5 moves the knight to e6, immediately losing a pawn. Stockfish is going to very slowly crawl back into this game, right? So we have rook takes b5. Rook to d1 check, king to g2. GPT-5 plays g5. Okay. Stockfish plays h4. I don't really understand these moves. I think it wants it to go g4. I'm not sure. I think Stockfish is trying to do something. Gh4, and rook 1 to d4, targeting the pawn. The problem is this just straight up hangs a rook. Knight takes d4. White is not winning. But after the next move, white is winning. Because for some reason, GPT doesn't take the knight. It plays knight f4 check. It loses the knight. It loses a rook and a knight on back-to-back moves. It just got so excited. GPT's like you guys. It's a ooh, check, ooh, like a caveman with fire. Ooh, 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 check. So knight f4 check, boom, appears. Bishop takes f4 immediately. Rook takes d4. And the bishop returns to h6. Look at Stockfish, absolutely ruthless. You give it one opportunity to get back in the game, it's immediately trying to checkmate you. But GPT plays rook d8, best move. Now white is winning. White's absolutely winning here. All right. Why is white winning? Because you have various threats. King to f3. It just wants to bring the king to the middle. It wants to pick up this pawn. It wants these two pawns to end up, being decisive. So it goes king to f3. Rook d3 check is a terrible move. It's a terrible move because you just helped the king walk forward, and now you still have to defend against the back rank. And you know what move here was played by ChatGPT 5? It played rook d4 check. Rook d4 check is bad because it hangs a rook in one move. Do you see that? There's literally no other way to hang a rook. There is no way to... think about how idiotic you have to be to blunder a rook, but not to just any piece. To a king. Like, you need to walk directly up to the king. You need to walk up to a person on the street, sign a check to them for whatever money's in your bank account, and hand it to them. That is the only way. There's no scammer calling you on the phone or emailing you or telling you your DMV toll expired. That's like a new scam right now in America. By the way, can people in like Europe and also other continents tell me, are these scams just an American thing? Because here, we get them 5 times a week. We get them on the phone. We get them in emails. I don't know what happened, but it's like we get scam and telemarketing stuff all the time. Side note. Anyway, there's no way to lose a rook to a king unless you literally... And yeah, king takes d4. But GPT-5 pulls off something so savage here. It only has a bishop and 3 pawns remaining. And the dark squared bishop changes allegiances and plays for the light squares, and black plays bishop takes b5, and as a bonus, ChatGPT-5 said check. So not only is it a light squared bishop, it apparently also is a horse. I think the cost of that microtransaction to turn your dark squared bishop into a light squared bishop and turn it also into a horse probably goes like $20. Bishop takes b5 check. Now, it's certainly not a check. White plays f4. The funny thing about this position is white is still completely winning. White is completely winning because the king in the endgame is way more active. These pawns are also very powerful. So you're going to walk them up the board and just promote. This king is still in a box. Let's not forget. King is stuck. All right? So you're still winning. Bishop to a6, f5. You know how you're going to not win this position with white? If GPT-5 spawns a freaking rook, at this point, I started panicking. I was like, oh my God, this is not good. This is really, really not good. I have no idea how you're going to fight back now. Rook to c7. Stockfish like, what the? I thought I got rid of these dudes like years ago. All right, h5, I don't know. I just have to push some pieces. It just has to survive. Rook c6, bishop to f4. So you're not hanging the bishop. Now black plays king to g7. At this point, Stockfish is like balancing this line between... Again, how on earth did I get into this position? And then how on earth do I win this position or survive? It plays king d5. I was convinced. I was absolutely convinced ChatGPT-5 was going to forget where all of its pieces were and was going to blunder the rook. But it went rook c8. But then on the next move, it really impressed me because Stockfish kept walking up the board. It's trying to, push and check and whatever. And GPT-5 here takes its own pawn. GPT-5 was like, I'm not going to activate my rook any other way. I literally have to capture my own pawn attacking the bishop. Stockfish was like, well, I'm hyped. The pawn is gone. But now the rook is way more active than it was before. That doesn't seem particularly fair. Bishop to g5. And as if spawning a rook for a 4th rook. Do you understand that was the 4th rook? Do you remember The rook spawned from there before. This is the 4th rook that black was granted in this game. After bishop to g5, GPT-5 played pawn takes g5. No. Stockfish only has pawns left. It only has pawns left. Okay, obviously one of the pawns can become a queen. Yeah, I was still totally hopeful. I mean, of course, it happens all the time when these two play against each other. But GPT-5, man, GPT-5 was not having that, man. Stockfish went e6. I was ready. I was waiting for GPT-5 to forget where its pieces were. It played pawn takes e6. Now only one of these two pawns can queen. This pawn's not queening. GPT-5 is going to stop this pawn for sure. So at this point, Stockfish was thinking I take. It tried to get a little sneaky. It's actually brilliant. It played h6 check. And the logic is, if you take, I'm going to sneak behind your pawn, thinking that you forget where your pieces are, and then shield my pawn with my king and promote it. Absolutely brilliant. But my heart sank when I played the move h6 for Stockfish, and black took. That means this is the only pawn. Is Stockfish really going to lose to ChatGPT-5? I mean, we let it break all the rules like our 4-year-old relative, but we still beat it in the end all the time. You can't let the cheating child win at chess, right? f6. You know what it played here? King g6. I was like, no way. King e7. Now you do the shield. At this point, GPT, it's supposed to make a nonsensical move. It's supposed to push the pawns. It's supposed to go after this pawn. It played rook to c7 check. It remembered where its rook was. It remembered where the king was. And now, all hope is lost. Because you will lose this pawn. King to e6, rook c6, rook f7, you win the pawn. But first ChatGPT-5 here, like the hall monitor that it is, told me, you can't take my pawn on e6 because your king cannot move diagonally backwards 1 square. Now let me tell you something. The sentence, your king cannot move diagonally backwards 1 square in this position, is so idiotic. Like, it is astronomical levels of idiotic. It's like the people who argue on social media with other people because they read the Wikipedia article and those people have qualified degrees. I mean, this is like the equivalent of the I did my research. I mean, my goodness. What are we doing here? King takes e6 is illegal. Not only is this not a move diagonally backwards, a king can move diagonally backwards 1 square. Anyway, king takes e6 went through. Bishop c4 check. And at this point, I'm like, oh, it's over. For sure. King d6. Rook c8. b4. GPT-5 said bishop takes b5. I take your pawn. I mean, it obviously doesn't know anything about anything. King e7. Stockfish still desperately clinging to the idea that it's going to actually promote the pawn, right? I mean, it has nothing better. Bishop to c4 back. King d7. Or king d6, I think, was played here. But ultimately, I'm sorry. It was king e6, bishop c4 check, king e7, bishop f7. That's what happened. Stockfish is like, well, I don't want to lose this pawn, so I guess I'm going to have to go b5. Now, this is beyond over. Not only is it, you don't even have to win the pawn. White can't do anything, just push. Make the queen, deliver a checkmate. Deliver a checkmate. Okay, GPT wants to rub it in, it plays rook c5. Stockfish is going to lose to ChatGPT. This is an unprecedented turn of events. Pawn to b6, rook to b5. My heart keeps sinking deeper and deeper into my stomach. I'm like, it actually sees what it's doing. King to d6, rook takes b6 check. King to e7, just take the last pawn. You take the last pawn, it's over. Rook b7 check. Okay, fine. King to f8. And in this position, it thinks it's a draw because if it was white to move, it would be stalemate. White would not have a legal move, but it's black's move. Well, ChatGPT played rook to a7. Stockfish survived. ChatGPT stalemated Stockfish, up a rook and a bishop. Humanity survives another day. I really thought that this was the game. In the past, Stockfish has been able to pull it off with just pawns and 1 or 2 pieces on the board. Today, I really thought we made it to the end, and then Rook A7 on the Rook A7 appeared on the board, and I let out a roar because we're still here, baby. ChatGPT 5, you cannot get us. I hope you enjoyed this video. I do have some others like ChatGPT cheated, etc. ChatGPT solved chess. That's all I have for you today. And if you want to improve your chess and not play like this, check out Chessly, my educational platform. Top line of the description. 7-day free trial. No card required. It's pretty fire. Get out of here.